So the six-man crew of Expedition 44 has been working on a wide variety of experiments, especially since they got back up to 6 people in late July. Here to tell me a little bit more about what the crew's been doing and what's ahead for Expedition 44 is the lead increment scientist, Jorge Sotomayor. First off, Jorge, thanks so much for joining me today. It's
My
always
pleasure.
great to hear from the people who are behind the scenes getting all this work done and getting the crew all the science they need. So
Sure
why don't
thing.
we start off with something that's been making a lot of news, and it has a really big milestone coming up on August 10th, Veggie. And this is a vegetable growth experiment. Tell us a little bit about what it's been doing and what that big milestone is going to be.
Yes, Veggie, we are all very excited about Veggie. We're growing lettuce in the facility. And actually, Veggie is a plant growth experiment, or the facility. And we have different, we can choose from different plant material to grow.
Okay.
At this time, we're growing lettuce, and we're getting ready to harvest the crop, and actually that's going to be on Monday, this next week, and we are all very excited. We're going to have several activities surrounding the harvest of the lettuce, including actually the consumption of the produce. This is the first time that the astronauts have received the go-ahead to actually eat what they grow. So we've got a couple of suggestions for the crew, some recipes, including maybe a chicken lettuce wrap, or maybe a lettuce chicken teriyaki, or use it as in a fajita, which they have the ingredients.
Yeah, and that's really big. So why? And I mean, why is that so huge? Why is being able to grow your own food and eat it in space such a big deal?
Yeah. Eventually, as we want to extend the duration of humans in space and eventually go to Mars, we want to make sure that we have the capability to produce fresh food for the astronauts. And it has the nutritional value, of course, according to what you're producing, what you're growing, but it also has a psychological value where the crew actually they really enjoy growing and seeing the plants grow in space.
Getting a little taste of Earth with them up there.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So switching gears a little bit, there's a lot of technologies, fascinating technologies being created and tested, and everything on board the International Space Station. And one of my favorites has always been Robonaut, the seventh crew member on board the space station. Where's the Scott Kelly worked with it a couple of weeks ago, I believe. Where is Robonaut right now, and what's ahead for that project?
Yes, Scott helped us a lot with the intravehicular activity mobility test. We'd actually basically what a previous crew, Steve Swanson, installed the legs and an additional torso, but now we're checking out and making sure that everything works properly. So Scott helped us with that, and as a matter of fact, in the upcoming weeks we have another session to complete the checkout and actually do the full IVA mobility test.
So it's going to be taking the first steps.
Yes, let's hope. Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. Yes, we're shooting for that. In addition, eventually, what we're gonna have is that the crew, the ground control crews, will be able to actually give commands to Robonaut so that it will actually come out of its compartment on its own, and then and also stow back in on its own. So that will save crew time. And in the future, as the technology develops, eventually we would like to have the capability of having a Robonaut or a robot that can go outside the space station and do the EVAs, extravehicular activities, instead of sending a crew member, which puts them at risk.
Okay. Well, and something else that has been happening outside the station is it's been deploying satellites. They've been using a technology on board to deploy these CubeSats. I know there were some that went out recently. What were those doing? And I mean, how cool, how revolutionary is that kind of technology?
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Yeah, and actually last month we had 16 satellites deployed. 14 of them are from the Planet Labs Doves satellites. So it's a fleet of satellites, and they're taking pictures of Earth from space, and especially in the areas with a higher population and more agriculturally developed areas. So they send that information back to the ground for the users. And then also we had 2 additional satellites on that same deployment sequence. One of them was the Centennial one, and that one was actually testing new technologies for developing a future aircraft. And actually that one in particular is looking at identifying and tracking other satellites about the same size. They're the 1 cube satellites. So this one, the Sentinel one, is tracking those satellites. And then we have the Archide 3, which is a longer satellite. And that one, ideally, and the objective is to develop the technology and explore asteroids or other bodies around the inner solar system.
Okay, so I mean that could be something really important as we continue, pushing out to going and grabbing a piece of an asteroid and then heading out to Mars, and we're testing it right now from station.
Exactly.
Okay, and then the final one I think we wanted to talk about today was spheres. So those colorful bowling balls floating around inside the station, always doing a lot of cool stuff. What are some of the experiments that spheres have been involved in, and what's ahead for those?
Yes, actually we've done a couple of spheres slush runs, and we
what
have
is that looking at?
Yeah, actually that one looks at how the liquids behave in microgravity when they're moved. So basically, as you know, with the rockets that we use, they have liquid propellants inside. Now the phenomena and the fluid dynamics involved, and the analysis of the fluids as they are launched and then go into microgravity is not completely understood. So we hope to get more information from this investigation from slush. So actually we have the 2 satellites moving a liquid inside a container, and with cameras looking at that, so we can understand better what's happening. Yeah.
And there was another thing Spheres is doing again real soon too, isn't there?
Yes, next week we're going to have a Spheres Zero Robotics session. And this one is going to be a joint. Actually, it's going to be very interesting because we're going to have the Russian crew members helping out with the investigation, with the setup, and actually the actual test run, as well as the USOS crew members. So it's going to be a joint effort between the 2 nations in getting the experiment going. And this is a very interesting experiment because students on the ground design algorithms to make the satellites, the bowling ball satellites,
so they actually kind of get to control them a little bit.
They control them from the ground, yes. Well, actually, they design the algorithms on the ground, and then the crew implements the algorithms on orbit. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it goes and who wins the competition.
All right. Well, again, that's just a look at just a handful of the hundreds of experiments that have taken place and are taking place for Expedition 44. Again, lead increment scientist Jorge Sotomayor joining me today. Thank you so much for this little behind-the-scenes look. Real excited to see things like spheres, and real excited for Veggie. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yes.